I look up at the ceiling and the ceiling is caving in. I became very, very sick. My mind was so irritable at all times, so much unexpected inflammation and weight gain. There was a moment in time where I lost my identity and who I was. When you can't think clearly, you won't act clearly.
Welcome to the Rock Bottom Podcast presented by Jigsaw Health, where we share health horror stories that inspire. Today's guest is Kate Middleton, aka Toxic Free with KB. Kate struggled for years with Raynaud's disease, inflammation, brain fog, and the effects of living in a mold-exposed environments. Her journey back to health began when she started to advocate for herself, change her environment, explore functional nutrition, and use her story to help others believe that healing is possible.
Before we dive in, just a quick note. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. So please always consult with your healthcare professional before making any changes to your health routine.
This is the Rock Bottom Podcast.
KB, welcome to the Rock Bottom Podcast. It's so good to have you here with us today.
Thank you guys so much. First of all, I wish we could have done this in person because I really love human interaction. There's nothing like this, but sometimes we just have to be far apart and make it work. But thank you so much nonetheless. I really, really am honored to be here.
Well, it is an honor to have you as a guest on the Rock Bottom Podcast. We met a few weeks ago when you were visiting here in Scottsdale, Arizona for the Consumer Health Summit. Did you have a good time at that?
Yeah, Ashley and I were actually just talking about it and about how powerful and overwhelming it actually was to connect with so many, forces. But it was so inspirational and confidence building, and just makes everyone realize, you do have a voice that is needed to be heard in the world.
Amen to that. And we're excited to hear about your story. We don't know much about it, which is customary of our show. We like to listen in live and understand really kind of live reactions. You mentioned when you were speaking at CHS that part of your journey involves mold and some autoimmune conditions. So take us back to how it all started for you. Take us back to your rock bottom moment. How old were you? When was it?
Oh my gosh. So how many rock bottom moments do I get to have in life? That's my question.
Well, that's a good question. And we know that most people have more than one, but the one that we're going to kind of talk about today is the one we're going to zero in on. And if you can remember kind of where you were when you feel like you were hitting that rock bottom, then we can kind of backtrack and talk about what led to that. And then we can talk about what has led you to here today.
Yeah, certainly. So focusing on the mold content, I was literally, you guys, a broke, can I cuss on this show?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was a broke Kansas girl that was trying to make it in LA. And I was living with a couple of roommates, and we had this terrible, terrible rainstorm, and in my bedroom one night, no joke, I look up at the ceiling and the ceiling is literally caving in. And I was thinking to myself, first of all, what is going on here? Second of all, am I okay? And I was third of all, this could be intuitively a reason to why I am feeling kind of insane right now. So as I mentioned, I was so broke, trying to make it in California and LA, a girl from Kansas. And my rock bottom moment was realizing that there was black mold growing in my ceiling. And so for about a year, I lost a year of my life, not knowing that I was being so invaded by these mycotoxins that were climbing into my body. I felt like an insane person. My mind was so irritable at all times. The OCD was off the charts. I had so much unexpected inflammation and weight gain and water retention. Everything would tip me off. And so contacted the landlord. And of course, I was in my 20s at this time, and contacted the landlord. And as a non-homeowner, you really don't have control over what you get to do to the house next. All I knew was, oh my gosh, I don't feel well. I don't feel like myself. And, you know, things just like stemmed on from there. So the landlord I was so lucky, did remediate the room. And I was like one of those like prideful like 20-year-olds. And they're like, do you want to go to a hotel room? I was like, no, don't worry about it. Like I didn't want to be a burden. And so I was like, no, don't worry about it. So during the remediation, I kid you not, there's like this like weird like bubble thing over the top of the ceiling. And I stayed in my room. And that was like the stupidest thing I could have ever done for my health and my well-being and not advocating for myself. And I think that just goes to show you like a lot of, you know, how people treat themselves poorly because they feel that they don't deserve it. And obviously that rock bottom moment certainly was an indication or a sign or of something greater on that stemmed from childhood, perhaps, of how I treated myself, of how I carried the weight when I didn't have to, for maybe family dysfunction. And then when you talk about the autoimmune, wow, like what people don't realize, you know, autoimmune is such a trendy word these days, but autoimmune comes from so many different things along the way that just compile and compile and compile. And then at a point, your body says, like, enough. Like, my body has had enough, and I'm giving you a very strict symptom here, whether it's a flare-up, whether it's a rash, a hive, whether it's just feeling like you cannot wake up in the morning and your body has fibromyalgia. I dealt with all of those things. And I am 38 now, and I realize, oh, I can not have those symptoms if I choose. And a lot of it does start with the mindset and how we hold boundaries with ourselves. So yes, mold happened. Mold happened in my life 4 times that I was
What?
aware of. I said I grew up in Kansas, and I played a lot in the basement, and our basement always had a dehumidifier down there too. And it was an unfinished basement. And, you know, I can't even tell you probably the things that were down there lurking around.
Yeah, you're like, in hindsight, I'm pretty sure it was infested in mold.
Oh, for sure. I mean, below the drain cells, if you know anything about the Midwest. I'm sure I was exposed to a lot of toxins, and that's why I became like toxic free with KB, because I'm like, I got to figure out the clues to this, and I have to be an advocate for my own health. But yeah, that was definitely one of the rock bottoms. And I feel like, you know, mold, what people don't realize is that mold is a neurotoxin, and it plays all over to every organ in your body, and it jumps around, and it's really hard to see it on someone unless you kind of know unless you've been through it yourself, is what I'm saying.
Right.
So yes, I did lose a lot of cognitive brain cells, and I'm kind of on the uphill of rebuilding that back up. But shoot, what a rock bottom moment. And when you can't think clearly, you won't act clearly, right? I mean, making decisions for yourself, you know, relationships, everything just spirals from then on there. So
Oh my
anyways,
gosh.
they remediated it. I did move out, but still, there's more rock bottoms after that.
Well, I have a lot of questions on just that first rock bottom. The first one would be, so you said you're in LA trying to make it. What is it that you were doing in LA?
What was I trying to make it at? That's a good question. So I always, this is going to sound a little woo, but I always felt from a young age I was meant to do more in this world and carry a stronger voice than I knew I was even probably capable of at the time, but I just felt it. And being in Kansas, I was like, I just knew I was a big fish in a little pond, and I couldn't get anywhere. You know, I could have married the boy from high school and, you know, been a good mom, stay-at-home mom to 3 kids or something, but I knew I was more than that, and I knew that I was, some might believe, like a starseed or like a prophet from higher up. Like I had a message to share, and so I guess going to LA at first, I thought that was in like modeling or, acting or something. I didn't really go
Sure.
down that route. I was certainly an extra in some things, and I did focus groups, but I did hustle. I did hustle at a lot of different odd jobs, like cleaning yoga studios and nannying. I worked 5 jobs at one point, and I think that I was worth more. When I say I was worth more and I was meant to be more, is meant to be seen as more, is I always had my own business because I did graduate at the first financial fallout in 2008, and no one was hiring for anything. So I had to be super scrappy, and I first started a business in image consulting. And I always wanted to share with people that you have this inner light within you, that you are meant to be seen and meant to live your best life. And so I would do image consulting, clean out people's closets, go personal shopping for them. And then that transformed into health and wellness because my mom was a functional nutritionist, kind of the first of her time. And so I always did internships for her. She helped me with lab tests. I tested myself on everything. I was her guinea pig for, her putting the VO2 max on me and cranking up the treadmill and testing my threshold. Like it was insane.
Okay.
But I knew I was more. And then it was when I started getting my own health problems. I suffered from very extreme Raynauds, very, very extreme Raynauds, and intense stress made it worse. And I lived in a very, very fight or flight household growing up. My parents certainly did their best, with the tools that they had, but I was the youngest of 3 girls. I was the smiley face of the family, trying to hold it all together, trying to compensate for, my father, and his emotions. And I think all of that, the body keeps the score, and it's stuffed down inside of me. And mold was just kind of like an indication saying, yes, you are very sensitive. I'm very sensitive. Yeah, I'm a highly sensitive person. And I think over time, I, was sitting in that moldy moldy house with all my roommates. And that was another indication of, as I was working on my business and building it up for being a consultant for a clean living expert and toxic-free lifestyle advisor, which I was after I was an image consultant. I transformed into that because I needed answers. I needed the answers of why I was feeling this way. And okay, if I try this, again, being super scrappy, didn't have a lot of money. Okay, what can I do for a little price? I can't buy all of these biohacking equipment. I can't go to all the events and try all the things.
Right.
I can't go to all the doctors, right? But what if I asked him to be a part of my blog, which it was my show was a blog at one time? Or what if the year that I got diagnosed with mold illness at that house, that is the year that I started a podcast and I taught myself. And I said, well, okay, I can't afford these doctors, but certainly they'll want to be on the show and share some information for a friend, right?
Yes. Brilliant.
So that was how I started to heal myself. And that is when, Ashley, I was like, oh my gosh, this is working for me. This is not working for me. I believe in this. I kind of don't believe in that because I'm very bold, or this is just marketing, whatever. I started to be like, I'm going to be completely transparent with my audience here and be like, guys, this is working for me, or show them what I was doing. Because I find that through community, we're all supposed to be here for one another. And it is my duty as that inner child, smiley face. I have always wanted people to just feel their best. I grew up with a father who has dysthymia, which is clinically diagnosed depression. And I feel like as a child, I always wanted him to feel okay, or anyone around me. I just wanted a hug. And so I would always give people hugs because I just want people to feel their best, because I've been in those deep, dark holes. Trust me, you look at me and you're like, wow, her hair is curled and she lives in Santa Barbara and she goes on boats and private jets or whatever. I wasn't here. It took a lot of trust muscle within myself to climb out of holes. I've been in really, really, really dark places in life. And I think it's my duty when I say I'm here for more. Like it's my duty to tell people like, no, you can do it. Like you can retrain your brain and say like, yeah, you've gone through this, but that does not define you, you know, or the conditioning in your head. Like I have mold. Yeah, but do you still have mold or are you still telling yourself you have mold? You know, like you can move on and you can get through it. And that is part of my journey is I just want people to feel their best. At the end of the day, if I don't make a buck, like that's not why I'm here. I just want everyone to feel their best because we all want to feel our best, you know?
Yes, and it comes so strongly from someone, especially that has been in those dark holes, that has dealt with so much pain through illness. Like, I'm thinking back, what was the year that you were in LA and you had the mold in your house? Do you recall what year that was when you discovered the mold?
Sure, yeah. When I found it, it was 2017.
Okay. So, I mean, I feel like mold, and maybe it's just the circles we're in personally, but I feel like it has a much bigger like platform now. Like people are aware. Yeah. They're aware about mold now. They're starting to get mold tests in their houses, or like at least it's on the radar. If you're not feeling right, it's more common then to consider that you might have mold exposure. Whereas I feel like even like in 2017, if you hadn't had access to a mother that had like access to the functional tests and you weren't doing your own research, I mean, a lot of people would literally just have not done anything and probably just assumed that they were going crazy, or this was just, it's all mental. And I mean, it was very fortunate that you had access to those things, especially with just such little awareness about mold illness, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Such a gift indeed, for sure.
So now you can use your experiences to try and help and encourage others. And of course, that's exactly what you're doing. It's amazing. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about the autoimmune part, but I know Patrick has a bunch of notes he wrote down, so I'm going to let you pop in with some questions.
I took a number of little check marks here for questions. Actually, let's talk about, you said the Raynauds. Am I saying that correctly? Can you remind me, our audience, what that is? You said you had it very intense. And what, Raynauds?
Yes, so it sounds super glamorous.
How do you spell it, first of all?
Raynauds, Raynauds.
Raynauds, okay.
Ashley was correct. That is part of the autoimmune. That is part of one of the autoimmunes, right? So what it is, and it's very interesting because I'm the girl that goes down the rabbit hole. And so what it is your fingers get very, very cold, your toes get very, very cold, and basically they turn white and you lose feeling to them and you lose function to them. And then all of a sudden when they come back to like normal blood flow, they'll get really, really hot and they'll feel like there are pins and needles shooting through your fingers, and then they will swell up. Like I couldn't wear my wedding rings for some odd times because they were so flaring up and down. But before I met my husband, obviously I didn't have any wedding rings, but there were moments, and COVID actually, it was a very, very bad moment because think about it, I was super stressed. I was at that time living alone with my puppy, and there were moments when my fingers, I kid you not, were peeling, they were swollen, and they were bleeding. And same with my toes. And that's why I get my nails done, because I was like, okay, there's got to be some way I can make this better, because I would cry out of so much pain. I actually have 2 service dogs, but my larger dog I have because she gives me pressure, because there are times literally I'd be walking and there's no blood flow to my feet, right? There's no blood flow to my feet. So still at times it happens if I'm on a trail run cold in the morning, I have no feeling in my foot, and you fall down on a trail, right? But I have my dog, she teaches me pressure, because I would get so much anxiety and panic around that when I could not open something up. And it is so debilitating when you have a chronic pain like that, when you could look totally fine right here, but your hands, you're like, I could never be a hand model for one thing. But the swelling, the going up and the down, the chilblains, which are like the cracking and almost like a psoriatic arthritis on your knuckles. And you know, like just touching something could be so painful. And I want to kind of dive in a little deeper to this because my rabbit hole took me here. And all the women in my family have had this. So it comes to my conclusion that yes, could be genetic, great, but then also ancestral trauma, like things that people don't work on in life. And environment, yes, certainly is key too. We just moved into a new house, which is on the other side of Santa Barbara, and it's much drier up here, which has certainly helped with any dampness that my body was not interested in taking in due to like recovering from mold. But it was very interesting what the body does in certain temperatures as well. But going back to that ancestral trauma, I truly believe a lot of autoimmune conditions come from just systemic ancestral trauma that we've not dealt with. This is a systemic problem, right? And, you know, when you think about the system, then I jump into the nervous system, right? And why living in chronic state of fight or flight. I'm telling you guys, it wasn't until I moved into this house, maybe like a couple months before, my body was like, cling. Like once we made the decision, my body like felt like, okay, you're not running from the tiger anymore. You're not being like, honey, it's a foggy morning here, and like implying, you know, like we have to get out of here, but I'm still not using my voice and saying like, we got to go now, you know.
So the minute you guys decided to move from your previous house, your system, basically you felt it like shift into parasympathetic or just like out of fight or flight?
Certainly. I mean, to be honest, there was like an epiphany moment where I felt a little bit more calm. I felt supported. And I think that probably could have gone into like an inner child thing of, oh yes, I used my voice finally. I finally used my voice and wasn't creating a story in my mind saying, you're a burden, you're going to be a disruption to the rest of the family because we all know moving is a lot. And I think that is such key to like creating any great change in your life. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. But yeah.
So you basically, like your intuition was telling you you needed to move to the drier part of Santa Barbara.
Yes.
And so you spoke up. Is that how that went?
Yes. And I think, you know, whenever we get a ping in our life, because I had last year, I had kind of some crazy events with, you know, work and family emergencies. And I think my body was just on overload and my body was craving so much peace. And I was trying to find it in like all these biohacking things like binaural beats and, you know, like going to these wellness centers and laying on the PMF mats and, you know, having a sauna or whatever. And I think it came to the conclusion of really doing the work and really seeing a therapist and going back to basics and saying, what do I really need to work on? And using my voice. And I think when we talk about chronic illness or autoimmune or being in a moldy situation, I think it really goes back to, you know, getting that ping. If you feel something's not right, dive into that feeling, right? You know, and search it out, you know, and say like, what is this telling me? Source, what are you trying to tell me here? What can I learn from this? And if it's a moldy house, you know, then speak up for it. Be the crazy wife, you know, the crazy roommate or whatever, and just be like, this is not right. I'm not going to support this. I mean, I get it all the time. Trust me. If you lived in my household, my kids are like, ah, but.
But you're being such a good example for them, you know, advocating for yourself the way that you would advocate for someone else. That's the hardest thing, right? Like seems like most of us are so much better at advocating for others than we are for ourselves.
Yeah. In a world of many healers, the healers and the caretakers sometimes forget to take care of themselves. you could tell yourself all the time, but I feel like we're still searching for permission from external factors. Like we're kind of like implying it, like, oh, I should really take a bath. I should really take a bath. And it's almost like you want your spouse to be like, go take a bath. But at times, like I'm at this point, my husband and I sleep in separate bedrooms, which is like the coolest thing ever. But I have like created this wellness sanctuary in my bedroom, like my bathroom. I call it the grotto. And I just now Irish goodbye situations because I'm just like, okay, like if it's loud down here and the dogs are going crazy, I just Irish goodbye upstairs. I'm like, I'm not breathing very well. What do I need right now? Put my headphones on or go sit in the bath, right? That I know that helps me, right? Advocating for yourself is the ultimate key to any sort of health success.
I have a question about the Raynauds. What did you do to make it go away? Has it fully gone away now?
Oh, wow. So let me tell you, let me jump back to all the rheumatologists and endocrinologists that have been wanting to give me pills, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not a pill popper. I
Yeah.
never have been intuitively. If we talk about intuitively, my gut says no. I don't play that game. I know it's really great for some people, but I already had a low resting heart rate, low blood pressure because I'm very, very active. I'm an athlete. And they wanted to give me this blood pressure, like lowering pressure pill called amlodipine, and it helps with like the blood flow. And I was like, no. I was like, what you don't realize is, some of the side effects of this is like lowering your heart rate. So I'm like, my heart rate could not go any lower. So what did I do to cure it? Yes, I did advocate for myself. The other thing, which is so crazy, because it is so systemic, well, two things, Patrick, two things. I took off that like ego hat and said like, who cares if you're wearing gloves and it's warmer outside, but your fingers are cold, your body temperature might be hot. Who cares if you're wearing gloves? Like, who cares? Sometimes I have to wear gloves on a windy day. The wind, the dryness, no bueno for me. So yes, that was one thing. Taking the ego hat off and saying, do what you need to do to feel comfortable. I think the second thing I did, which is very interesting, is making sure my environment is conducive to my health. That being said is not being in damp environments. I swim a lot. I'm a swimmer. Making sure that I don't shower in the locker rooms or I try not to stay in those environments because my body is already inundated with moisture, which kind of, the mold, I feel like exacerbated the central nervous system disruption a little bit. I'm very sensitive to smell. So anything that's going to cause stress or create a flare-up in my life, I don't want any part of it, which sounds a little like anal at times, but that even goes to like negativity. So mindset, like who am I surrounding myself with? That's one of my pillars for my business is relationships, like saying bye-bye to toxic relationships, any negativity, anything that's going to bring me down, anything that's going to, I don't know, just let me not be in that light that's going to make me feel bad, whether it's the news or something. Anything that's going to cause stress in my life is not welcome in my life. And I think that helps a lot because as a child that grew up and has all these central nervous system dysregulations at times, I need to know how to keep myself level. So yes, wearing gloves, which sounds so silly, but like if you watch me on Instagram, I love to trail run on the weekends especially, and I'll have like my head covered, like learning that as an adult, like cover your head where the heat source comes out, cover your wrists. Make sure there's something zipped up here because all these heat factors that my body is so sensitive to, keep it locked in, right? Taking the ego hat off, basically, the over-ego hat off. Advocating for yourself, as I mentioned before with the house move, that was probably one of the hardest things, but that helped tremendously. That helped not only with my mindset, but also with my body core temperature. I sit out in the sun a lot. I think that helps a lot with it. And then I think also nutritionally. I think nutrition plays a huge part. I eat very, very healthy, given my mom was a functional nutritionist, but I try to make sure that I don't eat anything with histamines. And I found that to be a very big clue because after the mold, I sound like such a big puzzle, but after the mold, I developed something called MCAS, which is mast cell activation syndrome. So I had a lot of inflammation that occurred in different parts of my body. And so not having histamines in foods or not eating leftover foods and being very careful about the foods that I eat when I do go out to eat, when I eat out, that was a big indication. That was a big healing moment for a lot of the way that my body works. And then the last thing, which is super controversial, my internist and I had a very long discussion about peptides. And at very first, when peptides were came up, even though they've been around for a very long time, I was like, oh God, no. But the more and more I went down the rabbit hole, the more and more I was like, I kind of want to experiment on myself because my cells have been so destroyed. My tissues have been so destroyed. I was like, okay, there's a couple here that might work for me if I microdose them. So I'm taking a couple of peptides right now. And I have found that has helped tremendously with cellular regeneration and tissue, and also the leaky gut that I got from years and years of just my body fighting itself.
Do you mind sharing what the peptides are that you're taking that you found success with?
And
Yeah,
dosage?
sure. So my doctor has me on right now, not for weight loss, but he has me on 2.5 milligrams per week of the tirzepatide. And that doesn't help with mold on an immediate factor, but it can help with the symptoms to mold. So the MCAS, and that has helped tremendously with my inflammation. I had 10 pounds of inflammation on my body. I couldn't move. It was insane. My spine, it was wretched. And then I'm on SS31. So I do, for 5 days a week, I do 1 milligram. So very small amount. So SS31, that helps with cellular regeneration. And then I am on BPC 157, the TB 500, which is, I guess, called the Wolverine stack. Mm-hmm. And I'm on 1 milligram again, 5 days a week. And then I'm actually just about to do a washout period. So then I'll get off of them and see how my body reacts. But so far, it's been great. And I'm a small girl, small woman, but that very small amount has been great for me. I still eat normally, and it's just helped a lot with the regeneration and, just feeling better the next day instead of feeling like I had inflammation or fibromyalgia of any sorts. So far, so good. I've only had maybe teeny tiny baby flare-ups in one joint here, but that was probably because I was running without gloves in the cold in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of your diet and doing basically the low histamine diet, what are some of the big, let's just tell us what some of your go-tos are. We could all do a quick search on what foods are high in histamine. What are you leaning hard on in terms of your typical daily diet?
Oh my gosh. So I'm a creature of habit because at the end of the day, I will be completely honest. I make so many decisions every single day. I have decision fatigue, so I kind of make the same thing every single day. I'll tell you my dinner, my favorite dinner. I am so blessed. We're so blessed to live in Santa Barbara. We have some of the best fruits and vegetables here. I go to the farmer's market and load up, and it's just amazing. So I will make a giant sheet pan of roasted veggies, right? I don't eat animal at this point in my life. I was doing some bone broth, but that's pretty high in histamines. So I will get a giant sheet pan out, and I will roast Oh my gosh, let me see here. I'm really big on leeks right now. Maybe I'll do every once in a while some fresh beets, some carrots, um, broccolini. What else?
Probably just whatever you can find at the
Radishes,
farmer's
water.
market that's like
Yes,
in season, right?
watermelon radishes. I stay away from nightshades, anything that's going to make me feel arthritic. Literally anything. Oh, fennel. I'm a big fennel fan. I love a fennel bulb. Slice that baby up there, some shiitake mushrooms. Those have really been my big ones. And then I literally douse it. My grandfather was actually a spice vendor, salesperson back in the day. So I love spices, and I'll put turmeric on there, cumin, maybe some homemade curry powder, some oregano, a little Maldon salt, and some pepper. Drizzle, like literally slather it with olive oil, really good olive oil, high in polyphenols. We love it. Put it in the oven. You take it out when it's nice and toasty. I'll put it over a bed of arugula or fresh greens with some, I know they say this is high in histamines, but we have the best avocados here. Avocado, and then I'll add some apple cider vinegar on there, and voila. She eats it with
Okay.
some nori seaweed. It's like so good. I'm telling you,
That does
so
sound
good.
delicious.
So going back to something that you said about it took a lot of trust muscle. That was a phrase that you used, and I'm curious what you mean by that.
The trust muscle, the knowing that you will not die if you say something authentic.
Okay.
I think this stems from probably childhood, but that fear of someone's going to yell at me if I speak my truth. And I had to learn that. A prime example would be, when I got together with my husband. I was so used to, Patrick, I was so used to like dysfunctional relationships in my life that chaos was just like such a comfort for me. And it took me a lot of therapy to know that my husband's sitting next to me right there. I could say something to him and he loves me. And what he says to me, he loves me. He's like, he adores me. He's like, you're the light of my world. And I'm just thinking, yeah, but when's the shoe gonna drop? So I was always afraid, I think probably again, coming from childhood, if I say something, he's gonna be like, no, but you're wrong. You're an idiot, or blah, 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 or you're crazy. I mean, I was in a sexually abusive relationship in my early 20s, and that word that came out a lot was you're crazy. You're crazy. So I think in the beginning of the relationship with my husband now, I was very cautious of what I said because I didn't want to be sounding like I was a crazy person. So using my trust muscle over time, knowing that, yes, I do have a say. And I do have a say in my health and my safety because this right here, this vessel that I live in deserves to live the life that they're meant to live. I'm not living for someone else anymore. And I think when I say using our trust muscles, knowing that I've got my own back. I've got my own back. And that might sound like really aggressive to some people, but I think people need to realize you are meant to be here to respect yourself in life. And yeah, certainly we can be in a relationship, but at the end of the day, you're the only one that can take care of yourself. So you've got to practice that trust muscle of saying I trust myself, that I've got my back, and that I respect myself enough to speak up for myself.
So good. So true.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You also said something, and you kind of referred to it again, of where sounds like this beating yourself up kind of stemmed from childhood, and you said carrying the weight. What did you mean by that?
Hold the weight of the family.
Yeah. Okay, that's what you were referring to, and then your dad's depression. When you moved from Kansas to LA in your early 20s, I believe. Was the abusive relationship before that, or did it start to happen in California?
Oh my gosh. Now that was definitely a spiral. So in my early 20s. I was 21 years old. I love it. my 21st birthday was like really not the best. I had actually a high school boyfriend that I moved back to Kansas for. Dumped me on my 21st birthday, right? And so of course I went into, do you know what the rebound is? I think
I've heard about it.
I think I like jumped into the rebound, which was this older guy. I was 21, he was 35. Yeah. And I was doing a lot of triathlon at the time, marathons, and we met in the pool. And he was flashy. He was an Iron Man, right? And I had a pretty intense infatuation with that, right? And I was like, wow, this is so cool. And he kind of just like slowly picked me up, like the way that, asking for my business. I was doing some graphic design work at the time. Hey, can you make me a logo? Great. But then soon it was like into like, let's go to dinner. And that relationship slowly turned into a very uncomfortable relationship. I was sexually abused. I was being forced to have sex against my will. Which is so crazy because a lot of people think, oh, if you're dating someone, it's not rape, but there is such thing as date rape through a significant other at the time. And there was a moment in time where I lost my identity and who I was. And I became very, very sick in that because I lost who I was. I didn't know, where I was going in life. And at 21, you're pretty impressionable. And I, as a overcoming people pleaser from childhood, I wanted to just make sure like I wasn't crazy because he was telling me I was crazy. In those moments, your body and your mind numbs a lot of things to protect itself. And when I lost who I was and when I finally got out of that relationship, thankfully for my mom, I had to rebuild myself back up. I went to Thailand for 3 months. I sold my car. I thought I was going to die, literally. I got so sick over there. I got really, really skinny because I got hookworm as one of the things. Also, girl didn't have any money over in Thailand, and I was buying, this is probably how I got hookworm, but I was buying food off of like mats from the traditional market. And I was kind of like at this another rock bottom moment, being like, what am I doing? And I told myself, I was like, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die at least like living and seeing the world. And Patrick, like that moment, I felt love again because I was talking to a Balinese. I actually moved over to Bali after that, but I was talking to a Balinese and he was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm homesick. And I didn't know what I was homesick for, probably just familiarity. And he goes, well, what do you miss? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, if you look up, you miss your mother. If you look down, you miss your father. And I was like, I think I just like miss like who I am. Like I don't know who I am. And he looked at me and I was like, I don't know how to love myself. And he looked at me and he said, well, guess what? Bali means love. And at that moment, I was like, you're right. I'm here to take care of myself. And I'm a fighter, and I've always been a fighter, that athlete in me. And I said, no, it's my turn. Like, where do I want to go? What's my next chance? What's my next change of action? And I went back home and I said, you know what? I've been to California. I love California. I want to move to California. I want to be a Cali girl. I've got more to deliver, right? And plus, I was like, I got to get out of Kansas. Like, there's just too much drama and trauma there that I was a runner. I was like, get me out. I want to run away, and tried to make it in LA. And of course, sometimes we don't learn our lessons right away, and sometimes we go into other relationships that are manipulative, and I slowly again learned my lessons time and time again. But I think it takes time, and holding the weight I think I held the weight for that person abusing me as well, because I said, it's maybe it was my fault. Maybe it was my fault. Just like a child in a household, you're like, maybe I got yelled at because it was my fault, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, again, those things compile up over time and brings you down autoimmune illnesses that, in my personal belief, do pop out maybe 10 years later and we get the extreme symptoms, But you got to dig deep, and you've got to know that you don't have to carry the weight. It's way too heavy to carry. And we're all just doing our best. And I'm a big believer at the end of the day, your mindset, the way you wake up, it may sound cheesy, but the way you wake up, I had my yellow glasses on because it was so foggy earlier, but now it's sunny. And I'm like, oh, but it's still a great day. I'm going to get a lot done, or I can do this instead. I can get some stuff done in the house instead. The mindset is so critical in how your body reacts. You can think, oh, I want happiness in life. I'm going to search for happiness. But until you lay in that and say, I am happiness. I have to, whatever I'm seeking, I have to be first. I have to be it. And at the end of the day, as I said before, you're the only one that can take care of this vessel. You're the only one in charge of it that can make the decisions. And every day of the decisions that you have to make, those choices that are given to you, those choices make you, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the spiral happens, but you can climb back out of it for sure.
I think that feels like a good sort of bookend of that. I love how you said, I am happiness and being in it. And I think that, like you said, it all starts with mindset. Kate, there's a couple of questions that we like to ask each of our guests. One of those questions is on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best and 1 being the worst. When you were at your rock bottom, what was your number? You've had a couple of rock bottoms that we've jumped through in different places, but where would you say when you were at those low points? Maybe it's the hookworm in Thailand, or maybe it's the mold in LA, or maybe it's the terrible relationship back in Kansas. What was your number at that time?
Shoot. Guys, I would have to say, I would say I was probably at a 1. I was pretty low. I was pretty scummy. And and I think a lot of people have been in those moments and they can't see light. They can't see light at all. I've had family members just recently that I'm like, you're in a rock bottom right now and I can feel it. And you always want to tell someone like, what if you do this? What if you do that? But sometimes the vision is not there. And I just want to say, like, you can find the light. It's just going to take a little bit of time, but know that like you have support, and it's okay to ask for support. It's okay to ask for support and help.
Ask for what you need, right?
Yes.
Amen. And what would you say your number is on a regular these days? Like on a typical Tuesday?
Oh, a typical Tuesday. I think I'm at a pretty steady 8. Certainly
That's a
there's
great number.
Yeah, there's some life occurrences that I'm like, or so-and-so's not helping with this. But then I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, sometimes it could always be a me problem, and it's how you react to things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's encouraging. And 8 is a great number. It gives you
great.
room to grow, and also it's pretty darn good on its own.
As Brian Regan once said, happy 8 day.
Yes.
That's an inside joke. And so final question for you, KB. If you were to write a book, what is the title of that book?
How did you know I'm like sort of writing a book?
Well, because you've lived an interesting life so far, so it probably deserves a book. If you're willing to share the work in progress title, we'd love to hear it.
If not, you could come up with something different.
You can, if you don't own the domain name yet, you can hold off.
I don't own the domain name, but it's okay because who knows, it could change. It would be called A New Shell, because my theory is, home is wherever you make it, right? whatever the way that your body or this home changes, it's like a hermit crab. The hermit crab sometimes loses its shell, but it moves on to a new shell, right? And sometimes you are a hermit, and sometimes you just have to know that you'll find maybe a bigger, better dig, right? But
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So a new shell.
I love it. Well, I'm so happy to hear that you're working on something. We will definitely look forward to that because, like Patrick said, you have quite an interesting story and life that you've lived thus far, and the world needs to hear more from you. So thank you.
Yeah. How can our audience follow you on socials? What's the best way?
I'm very social. I would love to connect. I am on Instagram at toxicfree.kb. I'm on YouTube at toxicfree with KB and TikTok as well. And also I have a podcast called Toxic Free with KB, but if you go to toxicfree.com, you'll find me.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And we'll put all the links in the show notes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, KB. This has been such a pleasure, and we appreciate you spending your valuable time with us. And
Thanks.
Take care and enjoy your evening routine.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Bye. 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 Bye.
Bye. This episode of the Rock Bottom Podcast is brought to you by Jigsaw Health, a family-owned, Arizona-based nutritional supplement company. Every formula is made with clean ingredients that are third-party tested to ensure that what's on the label is in the bottle and nothing else. Learn more at jigsawhealth.com.
Do you have a health horror story? We're always looking for stories that will inspire others, so please use the link in the description to apply to be on our show. Finally, if this episode resonated with you, then please like and subscribe. It really helps others to find our show, and we want to help spread the word. New episodes drop every other Wednesday, so thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next show.